So just going to go right quick to Jhon. Jhon chapter 1 verses 1. You know what it says? It says, in the beginning was the Word. All right. So people run. They run. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's the only thing they care about. To prove that the Word is God. And then, sudden, when you expect them to read verses 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, no, they just jumped. They jumped to verses 14. Why? Why they jump? I'm going to call them jumpers. Trinitarians are jumpers. And also the oneness, Pentecostal, and oneness, the modalist. And it's, and the Word became flesh. That's what they care about. Read Jhon 1:1 and then just jump 13 verses later. They jump to, hey Jesus. So I'm going to do a little breakdown here. When he said in the beginning, when the text said in the beginning, so it's talking about a point on time. See that? If it said in the beginning, there has to be a beginning. So we have to go for the word beginning. What is he talking about? What the word beginning means. So they just go and jump. They jump to Genesis. They say, oh, that was in creation times. So how they jump from Jhon 1:1 to Genesis? So the word come from the Greek word logos. The word verb or word come from logos. So that means if they believe the word logos is Jesus, and the word logos had to be in Genesis, because they believe that Jesus was in the beginning with God creating the world. So they jump from Jhon 1:1 to Jhon 1:14. And why they do that? Because they don't care about the context. They don't really care about the context. They just want to go straight to Jhon 1:14 to back that up. That's the only thing they worried about. They don't worry about the word beginning, where it's the word beginning. So the word beginning, they apply it to Genesis creation. So whenever they read the part that said in the beginning, they already have it like in their minds. They picture Jesus creating Adam, but they don't worry about the context, because some Bible said the gospel according to St. John, the gospel according to St. Matthew, St. Marcos, and St. Lucas is the gospel according to. The text don't say, or the titles don't say the Genesis creation according to John. They forget about that. They forget about Mark chapter 1 verses 1. They don't care about it, because in Mark chapter 1 verses 1, I'm going to read it for you. It said, the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Every time you find the word beginning, RK, is the word RK. The first time you find it in the New Testament was Jesus. I'm gonna ask the people who are here. Hey, all of you, los que están en inglés y en español, I have a question. Can anybody tell me when is the first time that the New Testament mentions the word el principio? ¿En qué parte del Nuevo Testamento se menciona la palabra el principio? Vamos. Where in the New Testament is the first time the word in the beginning is mentioned? That was Jesus who mentioned it. And every time he mentions the word beginning, the context tells you what beginning is he talking about. The context has to tell you. Do you know,
Is it
Sandy?
is I'm not sure, but is it when he refers back to Genesis when in the beginning God created man, que los hizo una sola carne, one flesh?
You're right. That was good. Good homework. It said in Matthew 19:4, it said, and he answered them and said, have you not read that he who created from the beginning? He's talking about the beginning of what, Sandy? Beginning of what?
Of the creation of man.
Of man, not the beginning of man. Because the context is create then from the beginning. So he's talking about the beginning of the man and female. He said made them male and female. So the word beginning, the first time you find it is in Matthew 19 verses 4. So then Matthew 19 verses 8, he said to them, because of your hardness of heart, Moses permitted you to divorce your wife. But, you see, Sandy, look at this. But, from the beginning, it has not been this way. So, what beginning? What beginning was that? The beginning when God said that men and women will be one flesh.
Exactly.
All right. So, the fourth time that the word beginning is in the Bible is in Matthew 24 verses 8. When Jesus is talking about the end of maybe the Jerusalem time, he's talking about the destructions of Jerusalem. He said, but all these things, Matthew 24 verses 8, but all these things are merely beginning of birth pains. So what is he talking about? What beginning is he talking about there, Sandy? He's talking about the creation?
In Matthew, yes, when he says he
No,
created.
in Matthew 24 8. Matthew 24 8.
Oh no, he's begin. I think right there he's talking about the beginning of the ministry.
No, beginning of the birth pain. Dolor de parto. He's talking about the destruction of
Oh,
Jerusalem.
of Jerusalem.
He's,
I'm sorry.
yeah, he said, but all these things are merely the beginning of birth pain.
Yeah,
So,
somebody came in the room where I was and distracted me. I didn't really listen. Sorry.
okay. So the fifth time do you find the word beginning is in Matthew 24:21. And he said, for then there will be a great tribulation, such as has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever will again. So he said that this tribulation, the great tribulation, was going to be so great that he has not occurred before. And then he mentioned since the beginning of the world. And then he's talking about the beginning of the world. So in every time you find the word beginning, let's bring people up because he said, you, Selvin or whatever. Yeah, I'm Selvin. I'm the preacher. I'm the preacher. You can share the live. You want to come up? You can share with us. You can speak about it. All right. So now we go. How many times do we said? 5 times in Matthew. Matthew 19:4, Matthew 19:8, Matthew 24:8, and Matthew 24:21. So only 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Sandy, 4 times in Matthew. The word beginning is found 4 times in Matthew. And the four times, right there, it tells you what beginning is he talking about. So the context tells you what is the beginning in the context. So we're doing this because in John 1:1, people just, when they read it, where do they go, Sandy? When they read in the beginning, where do they go? They go to Genesis.
In the beginning, when he's yeah, they always use John 1:1 to refer that Jesus was
The
there.
Jesus was right, exactly. So, but we already proved from
But
Matthew.
Jesus.
Sandy, you don't have a good signal, Sandy.
Ah, terrible. Yes, I don't know why my signal went away. I see it.
Uh,
Can you hear me now? Yes.
I can hear you. You have to
Not
get the
yet.
Wi-Fi. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Okay. We were making it clear because John 1:1 people usually say that that's when in the beginning also, that's the text they use to back up what they believe, that Jesus was there from the creation, from the beginning, when God created man.
Correct.
Man.
So they jump to Genesis. So they don't read the
Exactly.
context, they just go to Genesis. So what we're trying to do here is try to teach people, at least, create like awareness to these people, how they've been deceived, and they are deceiving some other people. Because when they read in the beginning, they just jump right into Genesis. But the thing is, we already seen Matthew. We already seen Matthew. The Matthew, every time they use the word beginning, he says exactly what beginning is he mentioning. So now we go to Mark. So Mark 1:1, it said the beginning. Right, let's stop there for a second. So if I do the same thing with this text, Sandy, if I do the same thing with this text as I do with Jhon, where I have to go now? Is it the beginning? I have to go to Genesis?
To back it up, yes.
Right, you have to go to Genesis. So it said the beginning, but wait a second. The text said of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. So Mark is telling you what beginning is he talking about. And then second time in Mark, you find the word beginning is in Mark 10, verse 6. But from the beginning of the creation, God created what? What created it? What? Male and female. So again, the word beginning is there, I know. But you have to look at the context to see of what beginning is he talking about. And that's the problem we have with Christianity. They don't care about the context. They don't care about the context. The only thing they know is to repeat what they learn. They don't use the senses, They don't use the common sense, the logic, that when you read something, you have to have a basis, reading comprehension. And they don't do that. I'm going to repeat that. Whenever they read the word beginning, they don't care about the context. They already know it. But they don't know it because they check on the context. They don't read the context. They don't. They just has to repeat the doctrine. So my suggestion is that you have to have logic, common sense, and a basic reading comprehension. When you read, but from the beginning, you're not going to go and say, oh, the beginning is Genesis. Hola, Rosa. What's up?
Hello. Good afternoon.
How you doing, Rosa? Rosa,
I'm okay. Uh-huh.
you doing good?
Yes.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for being there for me, I appreciate your work, okay? Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's keep going. So right in the context in Mark 10 verses 6, you find the words of creation. God created then male and female. So right in the context, you find out that the word beginning is not talking about what you wanted to say. The word beginning is talking about the creation. And then we got to the third time Mark mentioned the word beginning. It's in Mark 13 verses 8. Mark 13 verses 8. And Jesus said, for nation will rise up against nations, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places. There will also be famines. These things are only the beginning. Oh, the beginning of Genesis?
No,
N-
not.
No. The beginning of birth pain. So Mark is just saying same thing they already Matthew said. So every time you find the word beginning, you have to look at the context. Look it up in the context. You don't go there and use your own understanding out of the Bible. You have to go through the text, reading through the text. So let's go to another text. Mark 13 verses 19. For those days will be such a time of tribulation, has not been occurred since the beginning of the creation, which God created until now and never will again. So this tribulation that he's talking about here, he says it will never occur since the creation. So the word beginning in the context is applied to the creation of Genesis. So right there in the same verse is telling you the word beginnings is applied to a specific time. And again, in John 1:1, they don't care about the context. They don't. They don't care. They just go there with their own understanding, the doctrine, the dogma, but they don't use the logic. They don't have the common sense. They don't have a basis reading comprehension. When you go there, you have to have those with a critical mind. You go to the text and being critical. I'm going to read the text, but then I'm going to look on the context and see what is he talking about. Now we're on Luke. Luke 1 verses 2. Luke said, just as they were handed down to us by those who from the beginning, there you go. There is the word beginning again. So if I take this word as people take John 1:1, I'll be in Genesis again, in the creation of man. But the text still going, it said, were eyewitnesses and servers of the word. So here we have the word and we have the beginning. So for Luke, the beginning of the word was when the eyewitnesses. What eyewitnesses? He's talking about the apostles. Luke said, just as they were handed down to us by those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. So Luke is saying servants, beginning, and word. So here we go. We have the beginning, the word was handed down to us by the servants. But John 1:1, they read in the beginning was the verb of the word, and they go to Genesis. Wow. No.
So basically, preacher, what we're trying to explain to all of us is that to resume everything is that there's different types of words. Like, well, the word might be the same one, but they have to go to the context to see what exactly the verse is talking about.
Every time you find a word, you don't go there with your mind set up. No, you have to go there and read the text through the context, because it might be the same word, but the context must be different context. But you want to apply it as you do in other context, and that's not right.
Can I kind of give you an example? It's
Okay?
not exactly the same, but kind of. For example, when we say, I have flour, or I have a flower, and people think, oh, flour is como flour de harina y flour de flor. So you have to read the whole verse and go to the context to see what they were originally speaking about, because they could be talking about flour,
Flowers, like
y flour
roses,
de flor.
like roses.
Because
Right. It's like you said. I can say, do you have flour? So you said, yes, I do. Maybe the person didn't finish, and he just said, do you have flour powder? You see that? That will be the context.
Yeah.
But if you just get the word flower, you might understand that the person is talking about roses, Good example. Great. Yeah, the whole text must be read in his own context, okay? Right. Luke 12:11. Now, when they bring you before the synagogues and the officials and the authorities, do not worry about how or why you are to speak in your defense, or what you are to say. So where is the word beginning in this text? You know what was the word beginning in this text? The word officials. The word officials, that's the word arche, the word beginning. means the principles, the beginners. The officials are the beginners of the law structures of a country. So Jesus said, now, when they bring you before the synagogue and the officials, the word there is the word principio. It means the guys who enforce the law, the officials. And in that context, you can go to, you guys can read Revelation 1 verses, no, Revelation 3:14, when it said that Jesus is the beginning of the creation of God. You see that? Now the word beginning is not a point in time. The beginning is talking about a beginner, not the beginning of the time. So in this context, all right, Mari Carmen, you can come. You can come. Sure. Oh, is it one day?
Yes, she said one day I sent her an invite.
Okay. So do you guys hear what I was saying? And in Luke 12, verses 11, the word el principio en español sí está en Lucas 12:11, pero no está como la palabra principio, sino como los principales o los principiadores de la ley, los que dan inicio a las cortes. In that context, the word beginning. Okay, did you get this point, Rosa? And Luke 12:11.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's jump to Luke 20:20.
Look.
Are you gonna read it? You wanna read it? I just close your microphone because you got noise. I need water. I need water. I need water. All right. So in Luke 20, verses 20, it said, and so they watched him closely and sent spies who pretended to be righteous in order that they might catch him in some statements, so that they could hand him over to the jurisdictions they go. The word jurisdiction right there is the word beginning. To the jurisdictions. I mean what? To the ones who force the law and authorities of the governor. So this is Luke writing, but the word beginning here doesn't mean the beginning of Genesis. So now we finish with Matthew, we finish with Luke, and we finish with Mark. And every time the word beginning is used, right in the context, it's applied specifically to something understandable. So in the context, we see to what is the word beginning applied to. So that's the problem they have, because they don't read the context. They don't read the context. So we have, in Matthew, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 times the word beginning, and the 4 times in Matthew, it says at what beginning is referring to. In Mark, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 times the word beginning, and right in the context, we know to what beginning is he applying it. And then, look, we have 1, 2, 3 times the word beginning, and right in the context, you see to what beginning is he referring to. Now, we are in Jhon 1:1. We're back in Jhon. So now, when you said in the beginning, I'm going to ask you guys, you, Rosa and Wendy and Sandy, when I read Jhon 1:1 and I find the words in the beginning, should I go to Genesis? What should I do? What do I do when I see the word in the beginning, when I see it in the Bible? What do I do? What do I do when I see the word beginning? Can somebody tell me in the context? I mean, in the context, in the comments? Somebody can tell me in the comments. Can somebody tell me in the comments? When I read the word in the beginning, to what beginning is he talking about? How do I know what beginning? So, to what beginning? How do I know?
Well, you will have to read the context.
You have to read the context to see to what beginning we can apply the word beginning.
Yes. So every time you hear the word beginning, or you read the word beginning, you have to go to the context to see what is the text referring to. Not assume
Right.
that every time you read the word beginning is talking about Genesis, when man was created by God.
Great. All right. So Rosa,
Yes.
so what do we do when you find the word in the beginning in John 1:1? What do I do? Should I go to Genesis and believe that he's talking about Genesis? Or what do I do?
I think the same to read the contents.
We have to read the context. Yes, we have
Yes.
to read the context. We have to read in the context, because one word can be used in many texts, but that doesn't mean that the word is applied in all those texts, is applied in the same manner. You have to make sure that you read the context. When you read the context is when you know how to apply it. So we got John 1:1, and it's in the beginning. All right, we had the beginning, same word, RK. But I'm going to keep reading. Was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So I'm going to go to another text of the same writer and see how he applied the word beginning in another text and see what he was referring to. But also, I'm going to see if in the other places that he used the same word, he's talking about the same thing. So let's start in John, and in John 1 verses 2, and say he was in the beginning with God. He was in the beginning with God. So you see that? He was in the beginning with God. So he's still talking about the same thing that he already said in John 1:1. John 1:1, he said, and the Word was with God. You see that? The Word was with God. And then verses 2 say the same thing. He was in the beginning with God. So still we don't get the context. He's saying basically the same thing. Now, how we know? Let's go to John chapter 2. Hey, why no? Let's go to John chapter 2 verses 11. Sandy, whenever you get a chance, if you can read for us. If you can.
Sorry, I'm at work.
All right, go ahead. No problem. All right.
Repeat.
Ah,
Can you repeat the John what?
it's John 2:11. We're gonna have a pakata. We're gonna have a pakata. Hey, why not? We're gonna have a pakata in English. A pakata in English. Rosa, you gonna read it or I read it?
I'm
It's
gonna
okay if you're
try.
busy.
I'm gonna
Okay.
try. This beginning of his signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and revealed his glory, and his disciples believe in him.
All right. So we have the first pakata. Sandy, we have the first pakata. We got the word beginning, same by the same author, John, and he's gonna use the same word. This beginning of his signs. So what was the beginning of the signs? Was in Cana of Galilee. He said in Cana of Galilee. He said this beginning of his signs. See that? The beginning of his signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So now we got the word beginning, and also we got the context. In the context, we know. In the context, we know what beginning was this. So what was the beginning in here? Is the beginning of Jesus' ministry. Is the beginning of the miracles. Is the beginning of the signs. Is the beginning of the wonders. The beginning of the wonders. The beginning of the wonders. So you see that? Oh yeah. So the same writer, the one who wrote John 1:1, saying, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And John 1 verses 2, he said, he was in the beginning with God. And then in the context, the one who was in the beginning with God, the one who wrote that, is also saying the word beginning, but also he's telling us in the context what's the beginning in here. So in John 2:11, the beginning is the beginning of the ministry of the Master, Yeshua. The beginning of his signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So we got the context. Are we good, Sandy? We got the context now. What was the beginning? Now we're gonna jump in the same book. In the same book. In the same book. This is the book of John. The book of John, chapter 6, verses 64. Chapter 6, verses 64. Look what he said. But there are some of you who do not believe. And then the writer said, for Jesus knew from the beginning. You know what he's saying? That Jesus knew from the beginning who they were, who did not believe, and who it was who would betray him. So the beginning for John is the beginning of Jesus' ministry. Jesus knew from the beginning. I'm going to ask a question to the commentators down there. Let's go, commentators. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the question. To what beginning was referring John 6:64? This beginning was in Genesis, or to what beginning is he referring to? John 6:64. To what beginning was Jesus referring to? Was he referring to Genesis creation, or to what beginning was he referring to? All right, I wait for your answer. What beginning is this? What beginning? John 6:64. To what beginning was Jesus referring to? The beginning of the ministry, Sandy. The beginning of Jesus' ministry. So now we kind of get in the context. Now we are right on the money. All right, so I'm going to read it again.
I
Yes,
didn't
Sandy.
want to answer because you said the commenters. So I was like, I'll wait for them to write something.
Yeah, maybe that we don't have English speaking people, but they are in Spanish who are supporting us, and we appreciate that.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, everyone. Gracias a todos por estarnos apoyando. De verdad que se les agradece mucho. Como quisiera estar, yo sé que todos, muchos estamos trabajando. Most of us are at work, and I wish I could be home and just get the Bible and everything, but you guys are really appreciated. Thank you, everyone. Gracias a todos, de verdad. Quisiéramos estar en la casa con la Biblia, ¿verdad? Pero estamos trabajando.
Yeah, so I'm going to read the text. Oh, Rosy dice que va a tomar cursos de inglés. Mr. Magdiel Valenzuela. Lo vamos a poner de moderador aquí a Magdiel Valenzuela porque él es uno de mis supporters. It's one of my buddies. All right, so I got it. I'm waiting for Alexi Martinez, if he can visit us sometime. I'm gonna put Mrs. Jasmine, is a moderator. Okay, ladies, let's welcome Magdiel Valenzuela and Jasmine Vargas as moderators. Let's give her a good welcome.
Welcome, Jamin, and welcome Magdiel Venezuela to the ministry.
Welcome. Thank you, everyone, for supporting us. This is going to get better, believe me. We're barely starting to do it. So the preacher has his channel in Spanish where he preaches and teaches the Word of God in a Spanish TikTok channel. But we're starting to do it in English. I promise it will get better once we get organized and we have all the moderators and everything. So we really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here, everyone.
All right, so another thing, this video is going to be posted on YouTube. It's going to be posted on my English YouTube channel, and I'm going to start sharing all this stuff. All right, so I'm going to read John 6:64 one last time. And it said, but there are some of you who do not believe. For Jesus knew from the beginning, you see that? From the beginning, who they were who did not believe, and who it was who would betray him. So clearly, we see here that Jesus is talking about a beginning, but the beginning is not in Genesis. This beginning is the beginning of his preaching, the beginning of this ministry, the beginning of the messianic preaching. All right, now we're gonna jump to John 8:25. John 8:25, and it said, and they were saying to him, "Who are you?" Jesus said to them, "What have I been saying to you from the beginning?" Who was Jesus? He said, "What have I been saying to you from the beginning?" So, to a what beginning was he talking about, Sandy? Was he talking about Genesis?
No, he was
Or
talking about
to a what beginning?
the beginning of his ministry.
The beginning of the messianic ministry. So we see from the context that the word beginning has to be read in the own context, because when we don't read in context, you're gonna have a problem. You're gonna be applying some stuff or some words to another context. All right. So now I've been telling you guys, Christianity, they come to John 1:1 and they got the wrong conclusion, because they come with their set up mind. They come with the doctrine. They come with dogma, and that dogma is brought to the text. So they don't use the logic. They don't use common sense. They don't use, listen, they don't have the common sense. They don't have the basis reading comprehension. When you read a text, you have to do it with at least the basis reading comprehension. Because if you don't do that, you're going to come with the wrong conclusion. Now we jump to John 8:44. John 8:44. So you are of your father the devil, and you want to do the desires of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning, and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. Whenever he tells a lie, he speaks from his own nature, because he's a liar and the father of lies. So the word beginning is applied in the same text, and in the same text we know in what context was he applying the word beginning. He said he was a murderer from the beginning. Whoever is he talking about? He can be talking about the father of this Levite guy, the father of the priest, the father of these Jewish people, or whatever he was talking about. He was saying he was the murderer from the beginning. So he applied the word beginning in his own context. Now in John 15:27, it says, "And you are testifying as well, because you have been with me from the beginning." See that? See that? In John 15:27, he's going to mention it again. He's going to speak about the beginning, but he's going to say the same thing. He's going to apply it to the same context. And you are testifying as well, because you have been with me from the beginning. What beginning? He was talking about the beginning of his ministry.
No, from
go,
Genesis, Pastor.
Yeah, we cannot go to the wrong conclusion and jump and take the word beginning and apply it to the wrong context.
Yeah.
The context is the beginning of his ministry.
So, for example, since they always say that John 1:1 means that Jesus was from the creation, and now Jesus is saying that the disciples have been with him since the beginning. So does that mean that the disciples were in Genesis too?
Pácata. Este es el segundo pácata del día. Pácata.
All
right, that was a good one.
So,
yeah.
Can I say it in Spanish real quick? So, estaba diciendo de que ahí dice Jesús, ustedes han estado conmigo desde el principio. Entonces, si vamos a interpretar Juan 1:1 de que quiere decir que Jesús estaba con el Padre cuando hizo la creación, entonces quiere decir, aquí donde Jesús les dice, ustedes han estado conmigo desde el principio, entonces quiere decir que los discípulos estaban con Jesús cuando fue la creación. No, ¿verdad?
Bingo. Bingo. Hey, Enrique just have invented a word, packation. Packation.
¿Verdad?
Packation. Enrique, that would be the packata in Spanglish. Packation. All right, now we're going to jump to John 16, verses 4. Look what he said. But these things I have spoken to you, so that when their hour comes, you might remember that I told you of them. However, I did not say this thing to you at the beginning because I was with you. So, two things. Two things. Look at this. Jesus said, I did not say this thing to you at the beginning because I was with you. So what things he did not tell his disciples at the beginning? What things Jesus did not tell to his disciples? Because he was with them. He was talking about, if you read the context in John 16, verses 4, in the context, you're going to see what things Jesus did not tell his disciples. He was talking about they were going to be executed. They will be punished in the synagogues. They will be persecuted. So Jesus is telling them, I did not tell you these things. I did not say this thing to you at the beginning because I was with you. So he don't have to tell them, because when he was with them, he protected them. He had the power. He had the power of God in him. So he was the teacher. So every time something happened, Jesus was there for them. As today, Jesus is there for us. He's our King. He's our Messiah. So he's there for us. Go ahead, Sandy.
No, I just said amen when you said that Jesus was there for them and he is now with us. And I said amen. I agree to that.
Yeah. So in the context, Jesus said he didn't want to worry the disciples when he was teaching them and walking with them. He said, I did not say this thing to you at the beginning because I was with you. So this is the question. This is the question. If the beginning is in Genesis, was Jesus with them in Genesis? Walter?
No,
Walter.
no. Mm-mm. That would be impossible.
Right. So if we cannot apply a word, when you read it, you cannot apply it to another context, because you have to read it in its own context. Because Jesus is saying, but this thing I have spoken to you, so that when the hour comes, you see, you might remember that I told you of them. However, I did not say this thing to you at the beginning because I was with you. So what beginning was that? Genesis? Nope.
No, the beginning of his, like you said, the beginning
Ministry.
of ministry. So
When he started,
exactly.
when he began to gather all the disciples, all the 12 apostles. So that's the beginning he was speaking to. All right?
Yeah, and
So,
I'm sorry,
yes,
preacher. No, so he was saying that he didn't tell them this from the beginning because he was there with them. So now he was
protect him.
telling them because he was getting ready, so they could remember that when he would be no longer with them, they would remember the words
They,
that he had spoken.
yeah,
Ellos se
they will be
recordarían lo que
persecuted.
Exacto.
Yeah, they will be persecuted. So he said, I didn't want to tell you because I was with you. So I didn't want to worry you. I was going to teach you. I was protecting you. I was walking with you. You were learning. But now I'm about to leave. So you have to know that you will be persecuted. But I did not say this word to you at the beginning because I was with you. Go
That's,
ahead.
did somebody use that to say that he was in Genesis?
No, I'm
Oh,
teaching about the word beginning.
yeah,
We've been through the whole four gospels, the word beginning. And it always, when the word beginning is right there, it said what context is he talking about and to what beginning it was referring to. But when they go to John 1:1, they apply it to Genesis without the context.
that's an excellent point. That's a very good point.
Yeah, great. So guess what? We just finished the word beginning in the four gospels. So we know now that the word beginning has to be read in their own context. So in John we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times the word beginning. Luke 3 times. Mark 4 times. Matthew 4 times. And all of them, every time the word beginning is there, the context says exactly to what beginning was he referring to And 99% is talking about Jesus' ministry. The beginning of the signs, the beginning of the preaching, the beginning when he knew who was going to betray him, the beginning when he was with them, but he want to tell them about the persecution because he was with them, the beginning when Jesus was baptized. So all in the context is talking about a beginning.